Fundamentally, there are two ways you can make more money on OnlyFans. You can bring new subscribers to your page, or you can make the subscribers you currently have worth more. People get so focused on just getting fresh traffic all the time, but if you really want to be making as much money as possible, you need to do both. Now, one way of doing this is not letting subscribers access all of your content straight away. While this does work, it can be difficult to strike a good balance between showing them enough to keep them interested while not showing them too much where they feel like they've seen it all. In this video, I'm going to run you through how you can use this premise to make your subscribers worth more while still monetizing as many as you can. Our goal is to make subscribers worth more, as in they spend more money over a longer period of time. To do that, we can increase their perceived value of the content as well as keep them interested in spending for longer. It's just part of the game that every spender will move on eventually. But that's not to say there's nothing we can do to keep them spending for longer. A lot of chatters have this sense of urgency. They recognize that this new person's come on and they're buying everything. So they think, fuck, I'm gonna send them everything in the vault so that they spend heaps of money all at once and I have a great day. I'm not opposed to getting people to spend a lot of money early on, but what I wouldn't say is beneficial is showing them everything immediately. That fan's gonna know that they've pretty much seen all there is to see, making them less likely to come back next time. Now, is that to say that no fan is ever gonna just become this massive spender even when you do that? No, of course there are going to be people that just buy the same content every single day, or they just love talking to you, whatever. But it's ideal to be set up in a way where those fans who do get bored, they do feel like they've seen everything, you get the most out of them. So we're going to regulate content distribution to create this constant sense of progression and intrigue, making them feel like every time they engage, they get a little bit more. If you've ever watched a TV show, which I presume that you have, Game of Thrones, Breaking Bad, if you spoiled it for yourself straight away, you're probably not going to be as into it, less likely to finish it. It's going to be more enjoyable, as in you get those dopamine hits if you don't know what happens. I should mention, this isn't going to apply to every creator. There are porn stars that do OnlyFans. Obviously, it's not going to work as well if you go, I've never used a dildo before, this is my first time. Yeah, that's fucking stupid. But for that typical influencer girl next door type, this can work really well. We also want to maximize how much we get from every kind of subscriber. What a lot of people will get wrong when implementing something like this is they'll think, okay, I'm only going to show more to the people that are spending a lot. But that's counterintuitive because there are people who just do not have the funds to spend thousands of dollars. But you'll probably get more out of them if you slowly give them more and more content over time, as opposed to saying, no, you're cheap, I'm just going to give you the less exciting content. If you measure what you should show someone by how much they spend, then you're going to just have a bunch of big spenders spending a lot and a bunch of people that don't spend as much that you get barely anything out of. So we're going to reward time spent on the account and engagement rather than how much they spend. You need a way of organizing your content so you know what to send to subscribers and when. This should apply to all of your existing content as well as any content you make in the future. Start by creating content tiers. I like things that are nice and simple, so you could just create tiers 1 through 4. 4 being your most exclusive and explicit content, and tier 1 being the least explicit content that you would still charge for. If you're stuck, just start with the most exclusive and explicit content you do, and then work your way back. Here's an example of what your content tiers could look like. If you're a creator or you have a creator that doesn't do content like this, that's fine. This is just an example. Tier 1 content could be anything that shows boobs and then pussy teasing, so just glimpses but not showing everything. Tier 2 content could show pussy and have solo masturbation but with no toys. Tier 3 content could be solo masturbation with toys. And tier 4 could be anal. There's different ways to think about tier 4 content. In the example of, say, a faceless creator that actually does show face to some people, that could be your tier 4 content as well. Again, you don't have to do it like this. Even if you're a creator who doesn't show that much at all, you could do tier 4 content, so your most explicit and exclusive, being showing boobs, and then working your way back to tasteful nude content, then working your way back to lingerie, and then working your way back to, you get the idea. Once you've clearly defined your tiers, now you should create sexting sequences that fit into each tier. If you don't know, a sexting sequence is a series of photos and videos that are taken as if they're happening live, and they get progressively more explicit and expensive. The subscriber feels like they're having this live, intimate experience with the creator, and they end up spending a lot of money. When you're classifying sexting sequences into tiers, remember that you want the most explicit, expensive video at the end to still fit into that content tier. You also need to categorize your other pay-per-view content. Photos, sets, long videos you have, everything needs to be categorized into a content tier. You could organize your vault something like this. These are the different categories, starting off with your free or conversational content, anything you wouldn't charge for. Then you've got your pay-per-view folders. So tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4. This is any photos, videos, basically anything that isn't a sexting sequence would go into there. Then you move on to your sexting sequence folders. I would say it's very important to have your own individual categories for your sexting sequences, or things are gonna get way too confusing and chatters are gonna make a lot of mistakes. So you've got tier 1, sequence 1, then tier 1, sequence 2, tier 2, sequence 1, all of the tiers are grouped together. You'll also need to create tier lists, and this is for your fans. I would just create tier 2, tier 3, tier 4. You don't really need tier 1 because whenever a new person subscribes, they are tier 1 by default. This is the actual process for how we take subscribers through the content tiers. Keep in mind that this is best attempted with new subscribers or anyone who hasn't spent money before. If you try this with current spenders who have already seen a lot of content, probably not going to work as well. Whenever you're selling a new spender, you want to start with a tier 1 sequence. Everything is based off attempts. An attempt means that you tried to send a pay-per-view to this person. So you went through the process, you transitioned into your sexting, you started the sexting sequence, and you sent a pay-per-view. Whether they bought it or not, that counts as an attempt. So after a minimum of 2 attempts with a tier 1 sequence, or they've spent $300 on tier 1 content, so other pay-per-views, photo sets, stuff like that, that's when you now have the option to move them into the tier 2 list. There's a bit of nuance here. With a subscriber who buys everything you send them and they don't complain, they're just happy to buy, even though that tier 1 content isn't super explicit, don't move them up to tier 2 yet. The reason we use attempts and not just if they spend $500 is because if you attempt to sell a subscriber 2 sequences and they don't buy it either time, going, I want to see this, masturbation with toys, and that's not in it, whatever. If they keep engaging, that's when you can slowly progress them through the tiers. The way we do it is we make the chatters ask the manager first before moving a subscriber up a tier. So now they're in the tier 2 list. After 2 attempts of a tier 2 sequence or $600 spent on tier 2 content, you can move them up to tier 3. But again, don't move people up the tiers if you don't need to. I'm going to explain more on that later, but it's all about their perceived value of the content. The longer you can string them on with less explicit content, the longer they're going to spend for. And again, after 2 attempts of tier 3 sequences or $900 on tier 3 content, that's when you have the option to move to tier 4. If you would like to. I hope you're enjoying the video so far. If you are, I would love it if you could just quickly leave it a like. It helps me out a lot. I drop videos like this multiple times a week, so if they help you, consider subscribing, share it with your friends, and if there are any videos that I could make to help you with a problem you're facing, leave it in the comments and I'll try to get to all of them. Thank you. As subscribers unlock more tiers of content, you want to try to increase the price. A big part of the reason this works so well is that it naturally justifies the price increase. Let's say a subscriber's been happily buying your tier 1 content. When you do decide to move them to tier 2 content, increasing the price is gonna make sense. I would advise coming at it with the frame of being nervous, hesitant, but still excited to give them this new kind of content. Best to imply that you're doing it for the first time, make it seem exclusive. Now I have an entire video on how to increase the price, so you might want to check that out. It's also important to keep in mind for subscribers that maybe weren't buying your tier 1 content, so you then move them up to tier 2 to see if you can get them to buy that way. You might not want to increase the price because they're probably not an amazing spender, so it could just be best to stick to your original pricing, just move them to the next kind of content. Here's some examples of how you could increase the content price. Let's say your tier 1 sexting sequence might be 15, 35, 60, 100, 150, 200. Then when you move them to tier 2, maybe it'll be 25, 50, 80, 130, 180, 200. So not a drastic increase, but you're still doing it nonetheless. Then you move on to your tier 3 sequence, which might be 30, 60, 110, 160, 200, 200. And you might be thinking, well, why don't I just charge this price for this content? It is objectively difficult to get a subscriber to pay a lot of money for content when you've got no connection built, they have no concept of how much your content is worth, and they might be comparing your content prices to that of other creators. Some creators are charging like $5 for 3 sex tapes. So this allows you to slowly increase the price over time while keeping them intrigued and always feeling like they're seeing more and more. But again, the price increase isn't essential, it's just something you can do quite easily. It's also important to note, you should be changing up the approach. That's a big part of this subscriber content lifetime. You don't only want to be using sexting sequences. Use your pay-per-view videos, your long videos, your photo sets, sell them customs. That's something you need to decide on as well. If you do sell customs, at what tier are you going to do that? For a lot of our creators, we'll do that for tier 3 because a lot of people, once they get a custom, assuming it's the custom that they want the most, again, they might not want to see other content after that. Now that's a pretty broad generalization, but we found if we sell people customs on the first day, which we used to do quite a lot, they tend to lose interest faster. So that's something you need to decide. I would say tier 2 or tier 3. And make sure that that custom stays within whatever content that tier is. Variety equals longevity. By constantly trying to sell them different kinds of content and using different pricing for it. This is a big thing. Say with sexting sequences, a lot of people will not do this upsell multiple pay-per-view thing long term. Eventually they get to a point where they like to just do one big payment at the front, which might still be the same price as the sequence, but they just go, oh, can I tip for a session? If that's not something you're doing with your big spenders, you should try it, especially if they're starting to lose interest in the sequences. As you know, subscribers don't make life very easy. You will need to learn to navigate difficult situations when doing this. There will be some subscribers who are impatient and want explicit content straight away. There will be some subscribers who buy the tier 1 content and they're upset about it. The most important skill for your chatters to learn when doing this is they need to learn to divert. In other words, control the conversation. Here's an example. Let's say a new person subscribes to the account. They go, do you have any BG content? So you probably don't want to sell them that straight away. What a lot of chatters would do is go, oh, I'm not really comfortable doing that. Can we just get to know each other a bit better first? Don't fucking use that. It's so overdone. No one believes it. It's terrible. You need to be a lot more subtle. Instead, say, oh, hey, do you mind if I just get settled in my room or settled in the house? I was just out 5 minutes ago. Most people are going to go, sure, okay. Use that to go, oh, can I just tell you about something that just happened? I know small talk's weird on here, all good if not. Most people, again, will at least go, yeah, whatever, even if they don't really care. If you ask them, so what are you up to? They don't have the energy, they don't care enough to tell you that. So you need to talk at them. The point is to distract them so you can send them your tier 1 teaser of your sexting sequence so you can sell them that instead. Now, it's not gonna work every time. Of course, some people are gonna go, oh, so can I have the BG content? But the thing is, there are a lot of subscribers who don't really know how OnlyFans works, and they just subscribe to the account going, oh, well, I'll just ask her what content I want. But then they realize they can actually talk to the creator and they don't really care about it as much anymore. They might even prefer a sequence because it's live. Whenever a subscriber is really pressing you for content they haven't unlocked yet, never say never to them. Say not yet. You want to give them hope that they will eventually see what they want rather than going, sorry, I don't do that. Because the moment they feel like they'll never get it, there's a big chance they leave. It's difficult, you need to stay friendly and keep them optimistic. If they don't buy something, use the fear of missing out to make them want to buy it more. Don't chase them going, oh, are you gonna see what I sent you? I made that for you, I really want you to see that. By chasing them, they'll want it less. Instead, you need to act like you're nervous about sending that video. Make it seem like a big deal. Say something like, oh, that video up there, all good if you don't want to get it, but just letting you know, I'm kind of an overthinker, so I would just get it now, otherwise I'll probably unsend it. I'm scared you're gonna judge me. I'm embarrassed about it. Something like that. That will make them genuinely curious about what happens in the video as opposed to, oh, that's such a hot video, I made it just for you. Now, there will be subscribers that will stop buying. They'll go, oh, sorry, I'm not gonna buy unless you send me XYZ content. You will be so amazed by how many subscribers will say that, and then they'll come back after a few days. Just send them a message in like 4 or 5 days, starting up a normal conversation and try to sell them again. But this is where you can use the tiers to your advantage. If you really feel like the only way to make money off a subscriber is to move them up a tier early, you can do that. I wouldn't do it the moment someone gives you any difficulty whatsoever. Part of making this strategy work is learning to navigate when it's difficult, because all the back and forth about a subscriber wanting whatever kind of content they want and you not sending it yet will mean when you do send it, they're going to be way more willing to pay. So yes, you can make exceptions if you really have to, but I would avoid it. Stick to the 2 attempts. So you try to sell them something at least twice, whether they bought it or not. That's an attempt. When you move them up a tier, put them in the next list so everyone can see what tier they're up to. Like I said before, we just get the chatters to ask the managers or ask their fellow chatters going, do you think it would be a good idea to move this guy up a tier yet? I'm a big believer in flexibility. There are some cases where it just makes sense. Ultimately, if you have chatters that can navigate those difficult situations and they can really get people to buy something when they at first didn't want to buy it, you're going to be ahead of 90% of people, but it's a very hard skill to develop. That's why I've made an entire video all about objection handling, what you can do to turn a no into a yes. So I would advise watching that next. Watch it. Enjoy the rest of your day.